This video is sponsored by Squarespace.
Sara Dietschy rhymes with peachy here. In my last video, I asked y'all's opinion about my overkill NAS setup, and I don't know, I think I might regret me asking that, but to just address a few comments, hey look, I removed my NASs from the ground and now they're on a shelf. Good job, Sara. These are my two backup NASs that I have now updated with the new content here, and they're gonna go live at my parents' house, so it's an offsite backup. So yes, I do have a backup. Some of you guys were concerned about that. But more importantly, let's go down here. So this is the new 10 gig switch that I got. It's the TP-Link one. Right now I'm choosing not to be concerned that Chinese hackers are hacking my network with that. It's just, you gotta pick and choose your battles, you know? Okay, yeah, that's pretty bad. Okay, listen, two things before we get started here today. One, I sound awful. I've been sick. Anytime I get a sore throat, I tend to lose my voice. So I'm like, hey, we need to film this video since I've been working on this past week before I lose my voice. Number two, this room I call my office, I understand it's a pigsty. It looks terrible. We're gonna work on that in the next video, but today's problem, this past, honestly, couple months problem has been my NAS. That's what we're gonna focus on right now. I think my problem is I try to make casual videos about technical topics, and then there was just a ton of misconception that people thought I was doing these upgrades to edit off of my NAS. I have always, and still to this day, I will be editing my projects right off of my computer's hard drive, the fastest option possible. But we're gonna talk to Wendell, and he's gonna actually help me look at every part of my chain to see what is the problem and if the problem is worth solving. So let's get into it. Okay, the first time I filmed this a few days ago is extremely confusing, so we're gonna refilm it here on my crappy webcam late at night, the night before posting. Also, I'm already working on the next video and you're kind of seeing the new office. So listen, after upgrading my NAS to a 10 gig setup, I increased my speed significantly, right? But there was still some room for improvement. The absolute GOAT Wendell has reached out to help, and he's gonna help me sift through a lot of this feedback. And guys, get ready, because you're gonna learn a lot about troubleshooting your NAS. Okay, so step one was to test my network. So a lot of people recommended enabling jumbo frames, but Wendell did warn me, hey, it could mess up other things on your network, and it probably isn't necessary. So let's actually just test the network first. So enter iPerf 3. Now, this might make half of my audience a little nervous because you're gonna have to open up Terminal and use Terminal, but it's just a few commands and it is super helpful. So this is basically testing like your network plumbing, right? It's ensuring that your cable, switch, computer, and the NAS itself are all capable of 10 gig speeds. So I set up my NAS as the server and my computer as the client in another terminal window, and I run iPerf. If the setup is capable of 10 gig speeds, you should see anywhere from 8 to 10 gigabits per second, depending on your overhead. And for me, hey, look, my connection is capable of 10 gig speeds. So it's not my network, it's not my cables, it's not the switch. Number two, we need to make sure that my actual NAS's CPU is not the bottleneck. So this is another terminal thing. Hang in there with me. I monitored CPU usage during read and write operations using htop in the terminal. So Wendell noted that while the CPU load remained low during reads, it did increase during writes, and this behavior is typical and it helps rule out the CPU as the bottleneck for my read speeds. Network check, CPU check. Moving on to the next thing are my hard drives. So I did confirm that all of my hard drives are CMR. This is conventional magnetic recording, opposed to the slower alternative, which is SMR. That definitely would have slowed me down if I had those types of drives. And I also tested each drive individually to ensure they were performing correctly. So if you go to Storage Manager, you can click on each drive, select Action, and then benchmark, and 10 to 15 minutes later, you will get a result. If they are starting to get closer to 100 megabytes per second, they are probably getting close to failing. But mine did great, especially for how how old my hard drives are. The 10 terabyte hard drives, I think are like 6 or 7 years old, so get a little sketchy. And my 14 terabyte hard drives are like 3 to 4 years old. And then also for those saying that I need an SSD NAS to achieve these 10 gig speeds, remember that these spinning hard drives are additive up to a certain point when you have them in a RAID setup. Depending on how much redundancy you have and what RAID you select, a setup with 8 hard drives should be able to hit around the ballpark of 10 gig speeds. All right, number 4, what about that SSD cache? Well, I did just add and remove the SSD cache to determine if it was affecting performance or affecting anything in my NAS, and it was not. It really shouldn't affect transfer speeds anyways. I will admit that this was the one thing I did say wrong in my video. I assumed Synology's SSD cache worked how well any other like traditional cache would work, right? And it does not. The read-only cache copies over hot data to the SSD, speeding up repeated reads, so stuff that you access a lot. And the read-write cache temporarily can write data to the SSD before moving it to the slower hard drives, right? Improving the write speeds, which is how I said the cache worked, for the record. But for the Synology cache, it only does this for small files, not like large video files that I deal with. How I see this cache working in my setup is, over time it'll see, oh, I'm accessing, Synology Photos a lot. So maybe it'll cache the smaller file sizes associated with that, like the thumbnails of the images or the metadata. It'll leave that on the SSD. So when I'm continually accessing Synology Photos, those previews won't take a long time to load. So that'll still be helpful, but it's just not exactly, how I thought it was going to work. But yeah, not a bottleneck. All right, up next we have the RAID configuration, and this one, okay, so this one is the big one. So Wendell the GOAT, he actually recreated my NAS setup with his own Synology NASs, which is crazy. Thank you. Shout out to Wendell. So he did 2 different setups. One, a 6-bay NAS, which is the same exact 6-bay that I have, and then the equivalent 8-bay NAS minus the expansion unit. So I have 8 drives in between the one 6-bay NAS and the 4-bay expansion unit, but I only have 2 drives in that expansion unit. So these NASs that he tested out, they both have the same exact CPU as mine. So the only difference is, like I explained, he didn't have an expansion unit, but that theoretically shouldn't be a problem, and I'll explain why later. But also his hard drives were all the same size. Mine are not the same size, which is allowed by SHR, which is my RAID configuration. Synology hybrid RAID. I started with 4 10 terabyte hard drives, and then I added 2 more 14 terabytes, and then 2 more 14 terabytes again at a third different occasion. So in both of Wendell's tests using RAID 5 and SHR in the 8-bay, he got much faster speeds than mine, so much closer to 10 gigs. So it is possible. When testing the 6-bay in SHR, his speeds were still significantly faster than mine. However, that 6-bay in SHR is a little bit slower than the 8-bay in SHR. So that can also contribute a little bit to my bottleneck. But my main problem, those hard drives. Throughout all of our testing, that is definitely Wendell's strongest hypothesis. When using HSR with drives of different sizes added over time, like I did, data isn't actually distributed evenly. So this means that the larger drives end up handling most of the writes and reads. So instead of leveraging all of the drives for performance, you might only get the equivalent speed of 3 to 4 drives instead of, 6 to 7 like my setup should be doing. So SHR is fine if you start with a lot of drives in the beginning, even if they're different sizes. But you can start running into the speed problems if you do it like I did it. Start with a few drives, fill them up, add a few more, fill them up, and then add a few more. And then on top of that, well, you have the wasted space. Another interesting tidbit that Wendell did share is if you look at the lights on your NAS when transferring content, they should all be blinking in unison, and mine aren't, which is another indicator that my
drives are just, not working perfectly in parallel. One note about Windows setup. So he did test the first NAS with RAID 5. So this was just to test the maximum possible speed, making sure that, again, the CPU of my NAS wasn't the bottleneck. Well, if you actually wanted max speed, you would do RAID 0, but no one does RAID 0 because there's 0 redundancy and you lose, honestly, in my opinion, the entire point of RAID setups. But he recommends RAID 6 for more than 4 drives, where the sweet spot is really in between 6 to 8 drives. RAID 6 is faster than SHR, and it offers a balance of speed, redundancy, and recovery. So although RAID 5 can provide more usable space and can be slightly faster, it only tolerates 1 drive failure. So this also increases the risk of just overall failure during a rebuild because it just adds a lot of stress to the NAS. If you have exactly 4 drives, he recommends RAID 10, and then RAID 5 is okay for 3 or 4 drives. So in short, if I wanted to solve my 10 gig problem right now, I would upgrade my NAS to an 8-bay setup, and I would set it to RAID 6 instead of SHR. So yay, what a relief. I solved my problem, right? Windows helped me solve my problem. I just need to get a new NAS, but I'm going to wait a little bit. I don't need a new NAS right now. It's gone very strong. Maybe I should buy some new drives because I feel like something's gonna fail. And also, I only have 1 redundancy. I think I'll put in 2 new drives next time and then switch to SHR2 for the 2 drive redundancy. But hey, my main objective was to be able to do this, to be able to pull in an old clip from my NAS into a current project that I'm editing off of my MacBook SSD, right? And to be able to play through that old clip without skipping frames. That's it. And I can do that. But now, thanks to Windows, genius and generosity of his time, I honestly know exactly what to do and what not to do when setting up my next NAS. Thanks, Wendell. What the heck? Did you guys see that? I'm using QuickTime to record this. Yeah. What? This is so much more exciting than shooting on my real camera. And yeah, hopefully now you have a lot more knowledge about setting up a NAS and troubleshooting your NAS. I guess the last note that I want to make is about the expansion unit. A lot of people were commenting about the expansion unit. So while it can introduce some latency and overhead, Wendell mentioned it shouldn't limit my 10 gig performance because I only have 2 drives in that expansion unit. So although the SATA connection is capped at 600 megabytes per second, my 2 drives are not pushing that limit. Their data can still contribute to the NAS's overall throughput, right? So the expansion unit isn't holding back the maximum speed of my overall NAS right now when I have the 2 drives. Now, when I have 4 drives, then yeah, I would not get the maximum speed of having those 10 drives. Well, the speed of 8 drives since 2 would be redundant, but I'm pretty sure at that point too, the additive nature of RAID also plateaus when you start just adding more and more drives in one volume. I learned a lot. I hope you guys did too. I welcome both of the crowds, I welcome the creatives like me who are just trying to hack together solutions, right? And learn the bare minimum to continue creating. But also I appreciate you techies out there that both humble me and also inform me, but also, I'm still one of you guys too. I like to get in the weeds too. I might not be as smart as all of y'all out there, but I still enjoy getting into these technicalities. So both of y'all make me better. I appreciate you guys, and I hope you're both subscribed. Okay, so my brain hurts, and we're gonna go to a more simple section of this video and just talk about how my NAS is organized, a much more simple topic. A very quick word from our sponsor, Squarespace. Why don't you have a website? You need a website. Are you a creative professional? Do you sell goods or services or content online? You need your own website. Squarespace has so many tools that you can use. It's not just easy to do, but you're also gonna look good. There's a lot of beautiful templates, but now Squarespace has Blueprint AI, which is Squarespace's AI enhanced website builder. So not only can you use templates, AI, but also their fluid engine allows you to simply drag and drop elements wherever you want on your website. So whether you want something that looks good but is fast, or you want a complete custom approach, Squarespace has you covered. They also have built-in SEO
SEO tools. So if you are a photographer in Dallas or videographer in New York City, your website will show up more often on search engines and you can attract those ideal customers. And something that they just announced is actually very surprising. Squarespace Capital. I'm just going to read the little blurb right here. Looking to grow your business? Now you can get fast and easy financing through Squarespace Capital. The application process takes a few minutes and approval happens in a matter of days. Avoid the hassle of the traditional loan process and easily access financing through Squarespace Capital. Squarespace really just be doing everything. So hey, if you want to check it out, go to squarespace.com for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch, you can use my offer code Dietschy for 10% off your first purchase of a domain or website. You can also check out the link in the description below. All right, let's talk about my NAS. Well, we've been talking about my NAS this entire video, haven't we? Okay, so when it comes to accessing your files on the NAS, you can access them in two ways, either through DSM, which is basically Synology's own little operating software where you can access your NAS and you can go to File Station. All of the files are there. You can also mount your NAS directly in Finder or Files if you're on Windows. You can just press Command K, connect to the server there. It'll pop up here down your locations, but as you can see, I actually have some of the individual folders from my NAS just mounted forever on my sidebar here in my favorites. I don't know if this is a bug or a feature or what it is, but if you simply just grab one of your folders and drag and drop to the sidebar, when you click on it for a second time, when you log onto your computer again, it's not going to work. So for some reason, you have to hit Command K again, and you have to type in the specific folder that you want to mount. You're going to press connect. Once you do that, go down to network, and you're going to actually drag and drop it from this. Boom, drag and drop, click on it, and all of a sudden you're gonna have your files. Yay! If you don't do that, you're gonna have this pop up every time you click on it from the sidebar. All right, let's get into it. In the last video, I talked about a third NAS that I purchased, a smaller one, where I basically am gonna keep, sensitive documents and computer backups on. I like that there's like a physical separation between the NAS where I keep all my content and then, where I keep some of my more sensitive stuff or just the stuff that I would need to recover very quickly, like if my MacBook exploded or something, right? But this is the big NAS, so around 50 terabytes of photos and video. I have a 4 terabyte SSD on my MacBook Pro that I edit all of my current projects off of. That'll last me probably around like 4 to 6 months, and then it just gets dumped on the NAS. And why I wanted to do the 10 gig upgrade, not only did I just want to speed the process up of copying over the content, but I also wanted to be able to just pull some clips from old projects into Resolve directly, not having to copy and paste them from my NAS, and be able to actually stream that footage and not have Resolve drop frames. And I can do that now. And so I spent the past couple months really organizing my NAS. From 2016 to 2020, 2021, I just had stuff everywhere in different G drives and miscellaneous SSDs, and now that is all organized on my NAS and it feels so good. So we're gonna start at the top. I have my exports. So this is all of the exports from every single podcast that I've ever made, right? It's all in one folder. And as you can see, the underscore clean means there's no graphics. And I believe, did I keep the color grading? I believe it's not color graded either, which if I did that again, I would leave the color grade, but there's no sound effects, but the audio sounds good. The video is actually edited, of course. So it would be super easy to just grab a clip and put it in a video or make shorter social media clips from it. And I really like that. So I have that with everything. I have that with YouTube videos. So I have, all of my older exports. I still need to fill this out. The YouTube export thing is something that I'm gonna do as I go because I've just simply made so many YouTube videos in my lifetime. But that creative life, I got just like super organized. I'm proud of myself for that one. But yeah, I have an export folder for YouTube, that creative life, and just like random social media clips. Having this all-in-one exports folder also makes it very easy to share with maybe some freelancers or maybe someone from Upwork that I hire. If I want to, get going on my TikTok game again, they can just have the raw source material and they can kind of get going with slicing and dicing for short form. I can hear myself losing my voice right now, so lock in, Sara. Finish this video before it's completely gone. Up next, that creative life. This is all of the raw material from my podcast, so not just the exports, but if you click in here, you'll see all of the footage, Hopefully I still have all of the audio files, the Premiere files, anything that you would need to, hop in there and essentially like re-edit the podcast if you needed to. So these are all the project folders for the podcast. Now I have a YouTube's folder. So before, all of this was in my home folder, and I basically had all of my photos and videos in 1 year folder. So it'd be like 2022 video, photo, documents, and that just like really, it didn't work for me. And one of the main reasons is I wanted those things separate. Having all of my YouTube videos content just in one folder and nothing else, it makes it a little less precious. So again, if I wanted to share this via Quick Connect or another way with a freelance video editor, they can poke around and find footage. Again, I want to emphasize, I am not editing directly off of this NAS, but it is helpful to be able to say to a video editor like, oh yeah, that vlog from 2019 where I did that pop-up in New York, there's actually a lot of great clips, just raw clips that you can use. Download those 5 clips. Here's the link. That is actually extremely helpful. And so now everything is in one place. It's just all of the videos that I've done. I mean, the sheer output that I had from, I would say 2016 to like 2022 was crazy. Nothing like having a rough pregnancy and then a traumatic birth and then moving cross country to just really, slow down the YouTube videos. Let's see what's in this 2009 and 2013 folder here. We got a guitar pedal demo here. Soul Bender. I'm gonna be playing through my 1966 Fender Bandmaster amp. This was actually my first YouTube video ever in 2011. I was selling my full-tone Soul Bender YouTube videos. So we have the family home videos. This is what I talked about in my photo book video. Definitely check that one out. I'm actually really proud of it. That project, I like set aside a month to do that entire project. And yeah, these are just like home videos of our baby girl being cute, different, maybe little miniature trips that we've done, or just her playing on the playmat, or grandma holding her. She's so big now. I mean, seeing this footage is crazy. Oh. Okay, this is gonna make me cry. Anyways, I'm just trying to be way more intentional with just like documenting the little moments of life, right? Whether it's video or taking pictures. Okay, so how I organize my photos is just a little bit more in the weeds. So up next we have photos, raw, and work. So this is for the photos that I do not want to see in Synology Photos. Synology Photos is a great way that Synology just puts kind of this layer of software on top of the folders that you've already created in your NAS, and you can go through them like this in folder view, and it's just a much more visual way of doing it, which is helpful. Or they have the very helpful timeline view where you can just view all of the photos in this like timeline view. You have the years on the right and the photos, laid out like this. I love this so much because I hate having my photos just stuck in an app. Using Apple Photos, one, it's just restricted to the photos that are either in your iCloud or actually on your computer, right? And that's just very limiting for me as someone who has so many photos. I don't want to pay past the 1 terabyte of iCloud storage I have, and it would just take up a huge chunk of my internal SSD on my MacBook. So the fact that I can get this functionality on top of my NAS is really great. Anyways, but this photos, raw, and work, it's not in one of the Synology Photos folders because I don't want to see it in Synology Photos. These photos I've either taken for YouTube, like, it's a collection of like 100 thumbnail photos that I definitely do not want to reminisce on in 20 years. Like I do not need to see those, but maybe they're going to be helpful for future videos, so I want to hold on to them. Or say they're all the raw photos from a Christmas celebration that we had, and really I only want to look at the edits. I don't need to see the raw photos, but I want to hold on to them. This is where those go. Moving on to home, this is where I used to keep all of my stuff, but reminder, you can't use Quick Connect and share the content in your home. So really it's for personal stuff that you don't want to share. So I don't keep a lot of stuff in there anymore. I have some documents folders in here that I need to move to my 3rd smaller NAS. They're in here temporarily just for organizational purposes. But if we go to this photos folder, actually shout out to another YouTube comment that was super helpful. They mentioned that if you put photos in the photos folder that's in your home folder, this is considered your personal space in Synology Photos. So if you come over here, there's this drop down menu. So there's a personal space, and a shared space. In my previous video, I mentioned that I'm gonna put all of my iPhone photos that I don't wanna see mixed in with my good photos on that separate third NAS because I hate seeing my iPhone photos and good photos mixed up when I go to this timeline view. Shout out to the commenter. You actually saved me a lot of time transferring those photos, and now I can keep all of my photos on this big NAS and just use the personal space and shared space. So the photos that I put in home is going to be considered my personal space. So as you can see, I have my camera photos that are organized by year here. So we have some nice, cute photos. So these are all of the photos that I've taken with like a real camera, right? And then we have a second folder with all of my iPhone media. This is just like all of my iPhone pictures. And if you go into the personal space, you're gonna see all of the good photos also mixed in with the iPhone photos. I know I just said I didn't want to do that, but why I'm good with doing this is because of what I'm gonna mention in a minute. So we have the good Christmas photos that I took here, but then also we have some of the iPhone photos that I took down here. And because we are in the timeline view, I can go over here and say, let's go to 2019. And as you can see, we're back kind of into more of my camera roll. But again, Synology Photos does a great job organizing this. Here you have the date and, you know, the location. I was in Japan, pretty cool. If I keep scrolling, but see, here we have some good camera photos mixed in here with the iPhone photos. Okay, so if you go over here into the photo folder, this is the default photo folder for Synology Photos. But any photos that you put in that folder are gonna pop up in your shared space. So this is actually where I put all of my selects. Again, I talked about this in my photo book video. These are just all of the best photos of either, you know, just my person, me. I have a folder for me and John. And these are the folders that I'm most likely to share with people. And so that's why I put it in the shared space. And then we can also go into timeline view and again, just see the photos. So you can see some of these same Christmas photos, but it's just like the best photos. It's the selects, right? And this is just kind of more a 30,000 foot view of all of my photos because it's gonna be the best ones just over the years, not just a baby, but my entire family. Aw, here's the OG baby Peach. This was me as a kiddo. Look at that Mickey Mouse fit. Oh my God, this is so meta. 30-year-old Sarah is looking at a picture of 2-year-old Sarah looking at a picture of 1-year-old Sarah. And then 30-year-old Sarah is watching a YouTube video of 30-year-old Sarah looking at a picture of 2-year-old Sarah that's looking at a picture of 1-year-old Sarah. We're done. And like I mentioned in the beginning of this video, this entire NAS is backed up to a second NAS. So not only do I have some redundancy with it being a RAID setup, but also we have an actual physical backup in a second location. Okay. Guys, I think I have exhausted this topic. We have done all of the NAS talking we possibly could. I'm gonna drop this subject for a very long time. I'm just going to enjoy my organization, make the videos, do the things. This was on my to-do list while I was taking my Sara-batical when I was pregnant. I thought I was gonna have 3 more months of just organization, and then that didn't happen. So I'm glad that I'm getting to kind of catch up, right? And then we unexpectedly moved from California to Texas. That was not in the plans either. Hence why I am living in chaos right now. When we moved, I prioritized making that main A-roll shot look good so I can continue making like normal YouTube videos. But now it's time to address the actual room that, you know, I stay up till 2 a.m. editing in and keep all my gear in here. It has to be multifunctional. So we got to figure that out. So if you want to hang around for that, hey, like and subscribe. I don't know if subscribing does anything anymore, but make sure to do it. And hey, if you're taking time out of your day to watch my videos and also leave comments, even if they're a little snarky, I appreciate you. Thank you for the engagement. And as always, guys, just thanks for watching. Stay peachy. Okay, bye. Check out my Squarespace link down in the description below. Bye. Okay, bye.